Tai-ho walked through the dirty hallways of Orbital Station 7, checking his pocket computer one more time. The message from the ship dealer gave clear directions to Hangar Bay 12, located in the oldest part of the station. After 5 years of working double shifts in the asteroid mines, he finally had enough money to buy his own small cargo ship. Freedom was just one purchase away. The station smelled like metal and old food. People from 20 different planets pushed past him, some with extra arms or strange-colored skin. Tai-ho was used to aliens. He had worked with many, but he kept to himself mostly. Humans weren't as common out here in the border systems. "Excuse me," he said to a station worker. "Hangar Bay 12. The worker pointed down a narrow hallway. "End of that corridor, big guy. Watch yourself down there. Some dealers aren't exactly following station rules." Tai-ho nodded his thanks. He wasn't worried. At 2 meters tall, with broad shoulders from years of physical labor, most trouble stayed away from him. His dark hair was cut short, practical for a working man, and his simple gray jumpsuit marked him as just another laborer. The hallway grew quieter as he walked. The lights flickered overhead, and the air felt colder. This part of the station was clearly not maintained well, perfect for deals that station security might not approve of. A large metal door marked 12 appeared at the end of the hall. Tai-ho pressed his hand to the scanner beside it. "Identity confirmed." "Welcome, visitor," said a mechanical voice as the massive door slid open with a grinding sound. The hangar was huge and dimly lit. Tai-ho expected to see several ships for sale, but there was only one, a battered cargo hauler that had seen better days. Its hull was patched in several places, and one of its landing struts was clearly newer than the others. "Hello?" Tai-ho called out. His voice echoed in the empty space. "I'm here about the ship." No answer came. He stepped further into the hangar, his boots making hollow sounds on the metal floor. Something felt wrong. Where was the dealer named Daesung who had contacted him? As Tai-ho moved around the ship, inspecting it, a sound caught his attention, something between a whimper and a growl. It came from the far wall of the hangar, hidden in shadows, curious and cautious. Tai-ho walked toward the sound. As he got closer, the hangar's emergency lights revealed something that made him stop in his tracks. Chained to the wall was a woman. No, not exactly a woman. Her body was humanoid, but covered in shimmering scales that shifted between deep blue and purple. Where human ears would be, she had fin-like structures. Her face was beautiful but alien, with high cheekbones and a delicate nose. Most striking were her eyes, large, with vertical pupils like a cat's, glowing amber in the dim light. But what truly marked her as non-human were the wings. Folded and bound tightly to her back, they were leathery like a bat's, but much larger. A long, scaled tail was wrapped around her legs, also secured with heavy chains. She was a dragon woman, a member of the Ryong species that Tai-ho had only heard about in old stories. They were supposed to be extinct, wiped out in the Galactic Wars 300 years ago. The dragon woman raised her head weakly. Blood had dried on her scales, and bruises darkened her face. The chains around her wrists and ankles had rubbed her skin raw. When she saw Tai-ho, her eyes widened with fear, and she tried to press herself further against the wall. "I won't hurt you," Tai-ho said softly, raising his empty hands. "What happened to you? Who did this?" Before she could respond, a voice came from behind him. "Ah, you must be Tai-ho." Right on time, Tai-ho turned to see a short, well-dressed man walking toward him. This must be Daesung, the ship dealer. He had a friendly smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I see you found my other merchandise," Daesung said, nodding toward the dragon woman. "Quite rare, isn't she? Last of her kind, as far as anyone knows. Merchandise?" Tai-ho repeated, his stomach turning. "She's a person," Daesung laughed. "Person? No, my friend. The Ryong are animals, intelligent ones, yes, but animals nonetheless. Not recognized as sentient under galactic law." He pulled out a small remote control. "Watch this." He pressed a button, and the dragon woman's chains sparked with electricity. She screamed a sound to human for Tai-ho's comfort and collapsed to her knees. "Stop!" Tai-ho shouted, stepping between Daesung and the prisoner. "Calm down," Daesung said, putting away the remote. "I'm just demonstrating the control system. Very effective." He smiled again. Now, about the ship you came to see. It's not pretty, but the engine is solid. 10,000 credits, and it's yours." Taiho barely heard him. He couldn't take his eyes off the dragon woman, who was now watching him with a mixture of pain and something else, hope, perhaps. "What about her?" Taiho asked, his voice low. Interested, are you?" Daesung's eyes lit up with greed. "Well, she's much more valuable than the ship. I have a buyer offering 50,000 credits, but if you can beat that, 50,000? Taiho had exactly 12,000 credits to his name, his entire life savings. "She's the last Ryong, my friend. Collectors pay top price for extinct species." Daesung walked over and grabbed the dragon woman's chin, turning her face roughly. "And this one is young and healthy, despite the necessary discipline." The dragon woman's eyes met Taiho's, and in that moment, something passed between them, a connection he couldn't explain. He saw intelligence in those eyes, and suffering, and dignity despite her chains. "I'll take the ship," Taiho said slowly, his mind racing. "Can I inspect the engine room?" "Of course," Daesung replied, releasing the dragon woman. "Right this way. We can discuss payment after you're satisfied with the merchandise." As they walked toward the ship, Taiho glanced back at the chained dragon woman. He had come to buy a spaceship and find freedom. Now he realized there was something much more important at stake. Taiho followed Daesung into the cargo ship, his mind working quickly. The ship's interior was as worn as its outside, faded control panels, patched seats, and exposed wiring in some places. But Taiho barely noticed these details. He was thinking about the dragon woman chained to the wall. "Engine room is down this ladder," Daesung said, pointing to a narrow opening in the floor. "It's not pretty, but it runs well. Previous owner was a good mechanic, just bad with money." He laughed at his own joke. Taiho climbed down into the engine room. It was cramped and hot, with the main power core humming in the center. He pretended to inspect various parts while Daesung talked about fuel efficiency and cargo capacity. "How did you get her?" Taiho asked suddenly, interrupting Daesung's sales pitch. "The Ryong?" Daesung seemed surprised by the question. "Found her on a crashed ship near the outer rim, probably a smuggler's vessel. She was injured but alive." He shrugged. "Lucky for me. The right collector will pay a fortune for a living specimen." "And the buyer you mentioned, who is it?" Taiho checked a fuel line, trying to sound only mildly curious. "A private collector on Nexus Prime. Very rich, very particular about his collection." Daesung's smile turned cold. "He's arriving tomorrow to complete the purchase tomorrow." Taiho had very little time. "The ship seems okay," he said, climbing back up to the main deck. "But 10,000 is too much for something this old." Daesung frowned. 9,000, then. Not a credit less. The registration is clean. That alone is worth 2,000. 8,000, Taiho countered. "And I want to take it for a short test flight around the station." "Test flight?" Daesung looked suspicious. "That's not standard procedure. Neither is keeping sentient beings chained up." Taiho said quietly. "I could mention that to station security." Daesung's face hardened. "Be careful, friend. Making threats isn't healthy in my line of work." He touched something in his pocket, probably a weapon. "But I understand your concern about the ship. 8,000, and you can have a test flight after you transfer the credits." Taiho nodded. "I'll need to get the money from my account, and I want to check the outside hull before I decide." "Fine," Daesung said. "I have other business to attend to anyway. Meet me back here in 2 hours with the money, and we'll complete the sale." They walked back into the main hangar. The dragon woman was watching them, her amber eyes following their movement. When Daesung wasn't looking, Taiho gave her a small nod. Her eyes widened slightly. 2 hours, Daesung repeated, walking Taiho to the hangar door. "Don't be late. I have other interested buyers." As soon as the hangar door closed behind him, Taiho ran down the corridor. He needed help, and he knew exactly who to ask. "You found what?" Mireille stared at Taiho across the small table in the station's busy food court. Her dark eyes were wide with disbelief. Mireille was Taiho's only real friend on the station. They had met 3 years ago when her ship needed emergency repairs. While Taiho was working maintenance, she was a pilot for a small trading company, smart and fearless. "A Ryong woman," Taiho repeated quietly. Chained up in hangar 12. The ship dealer is selling her to a collector tomorrow. Mireille leaned forward. Tai-ho, the Ryong are extinct. Everyone knows that. Not all of them, apparently. Tai-ho described what he had seen. She's intelligent, Mireille. I could see it in her eyes. This isn't right, Mireille sighed. Even if what you're saying is true, what do you plan to do? Buy her instead of your ship? You don't have that kind of money, no, Tai-ho said. I'm going to buy the ship and use it to help her escape. Mireille nearly choked on her drink. Are you crazy? That's stealing. And probably kidnapping, legally speaking. You'll be wanted in every system from here to the core worlds. I can't leave her there. Tai-ho said firmly. You didn't see how they treated her. And this collector sounds worse. Mireille studied his face. You're serious about this? It wasn't a question. I need your help, Tai-ho admitted. I can fly basic ships, but I'm not a real pilot. And I need someone to create a distraction. For a long moment, Mireille was silent. Then she cursed under her breath. My captain will fire me if he finds out. She shook her head. But I can't let you do this alone. You'd crash into the station before you cleared the docking bay. Relief washed over Tai-ho. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Mireille warned. We need a plan, and we have less than 2 hours to make one. They spent the next hour planning their escape. Mireille knew the station's security systems and flight protocols. She explained how to bypass the standard departure checks and which routes would avoid the busier shipping lanes. The ship's registration will be flagged as stolen within hours, she explained. You'll need to head for the border systems, maybe even uncharted space. What about you? Tai-ho asked. After the distraction, I'll meet you at Junction Point Alpha, Mireille said. It's a small asteroid field used by smugglers. I can claim my ship had navigation problems and I needed to make repairs. Tai-ho nodded. And if something goes wrong? Mireille gave him a small smile. Then I never knew you, and you stole my access codes. They finalized their plan. Mireille would create a distraction by triggering a minor security alert in a different section of the station. This would draw attention away from Hangar 12. Meanwhile, Tai-ho would buy the ship, free the dragon woman, and escape during the confusion. One more thing, Mireille said as they prepared to leave. What if she doesn't want to go with you? What if she's dangerous? Tai-ho hadn't considered this. I don't think she is, but I'll give her a choice. Mireille checked the time. It's almost time. Transfer the money to my account. I'll handle the payment to make it harder to trace. And take this. She handed him a small device. Emergency beacon. If you need help, activate it. Tai-ho took a deep breath. I never thought my first ship would come with a rescue mission. Neither did I, Mireille said. But it makes for a better story than just buying a rusty old freighter. She stood up. Good luck, Tai-ho. Try not to die. With that, they separated. Tai-ho headed back to Hangar 12, his heart pounding. He was about to risk everything for someone he didn't even know, a being from a species thought to be extinct. But when he remembered those intelligent amber eyes and the chains cutting into scaled skin, he knew he couldn't walk away. Whatever happened next, there was no turning back. Tai-ho stood outside Hangar 12, checking the small communicator on his wrist. Mireille had sent a simple message, ready. The plan was in motion. He took a deep breath and pressed his hand to the scanner. The door slid open with the same grinding noise as before. Inside, Daesung was waiting, looking impatient. You're late, the dealer said, checking his own device. Do you have the money? Tai-ho nodded. 8,000 credits, as agreed. He showed Daesung the transfer confirmation that Mireille had prepared. The ship is mine now? Daesung examined the confirmation carefully, then smiled. All yours. Just need your thumbprint on the ownership transfer. He held out a small tablet. As Tai-ho pressed his thumb to the screen, he glanced toward the back of the hangar. The dragon woman was still there, watching them with those intense amber eyes. She seemed to be sitting straighter now, as if sensing something was about to happen. Congratulations, Daesung said, handing Tai-ho a small chip. Ship access and registration codes. She's not pretty, but she'll get you where you need to go. I'd like to load my personal items now, Tai-ho said, patting the large bag he had brought. It contained some clothes and food, but mostly tools he might need for the escape. Fine, fine. Daesung waved dismissively. I need to make some calls anyway. Just don't touch anything else in the hangar." Tai-Ho walked to the ship and lowered the cargo ramp. He made a show of carrying his bag inside, then waited near the entrance, counting seconds in his head. According to their plan, Mirai's distraction should happen any moment now. As if on cue, a loud alarm began blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed in the hangar. "Attention all personnel." A computerized voice announced over the station's speakers. "Security breach detected in Sector 7. All security teams report immediately." "This is not a drill." Dae-sung looked up from his device, frowning. "What now?" He turned to Tai-Ho. "Stay here. I need to check something." As soon as Dae-sung left the hangar, Tai-Ho ran to the dragon woman. Up close, her injuries looked even worse. Dried blood crusted on her scales, and the chains had cut deep into her wrists and ankles. "I'm going to help you," Tai-Ho said quickly. "My name is Tai-Ho. Can you understand me?" The dragon woman stared at him, then slowly nodded. "Double quotes good," Tai-Ho said, relief washing over him. He pulled out a small cutting tool from his pocket. "I'm going to cut these chains. Then we need to get to the ship quickly. Dae-sung will be back soon." He began working on the chains. The metal was thick, but his tool was designed for cutting through asteroid minerals. Sparks flew as he cut through the first chain, holding her right arm. "Why?" The dragon woman's voice was rough from disuse, but clear. "Why help me?" Tai-Ho paused for a second. "Because it's wrong to keep anyone in chains. Because you deserve freedom." He cut through the second chain, freeing her arms. The dragon woman slowly stretched her wings, wincing in pain. They were beautiful, membrane-like, with a pattern of scales along the edges, spanning at least 3 meters when partially extended. "My name is Ha-Yun," she said quietly as Tai-Ho worked on the chains around her ankles. "Ha-Yun," Tai-Ho repeated. "We don't have much time. Can you walk?" The final chain broke free. Ha-Yun stood shakily, leaning against the wall for support. "I think so." Suddenly, the hangar door slid open. Dae-sung stood there, his face twisting from confusion to rage when he saw what was happening. "Thief!" he shouted, pulling a small blaster from his jacket. "Step away from my property." Tai-Ho moved in front of Ha-Yun protectively. "She's not property. She's coming with me." Dae-sung aimed the blaster at Tai-Ho's chest. "I don't think so. That Ryong is worth more than 50 ships, like the one you just bought. Back away now, or I'll shoot you and explain to station security that you were trying to steal from me." Tai-Ho tensed, ready to charge at Dae-sung despite the weapon. But before he could move, something extraordinary happened. Ha-Yun stepped forward, her wings spreading wider. She took a deep breath, and when she exhaled, a jet of blue flame shot from her mouth. The fire didn't hit Dae-sung directly, but it struck the control panel next to him, causing it to explode in a shower of sparks. Dae-sung screamed and fell backward, dropping his blaster. The hangar lights flickered and went out, leaving only the red emergency lights. "Run!" Tai-Ho grabbed Ha-Yun's hand and pulled her toward the ship. She stumbled at first but quickly found her balance. They raced up the cargo ramp. Tai-Ho slammed his hand on the control panel, and the ramp began to close. Through the narrowing opening, he could see Dae-sung getting to his feet, shouting into a communicator. "Can you breathe fire again?" Tai-Ho asked as they reached the cockpit. Ha-Yun shook her head. "Not right away. It takes time to recharge." Tai-Ho inserted the access chip into the ship's control panel. The engines hummed to life, much smoother than he expected from such an old vessel. "Strap in," he told Ha-Yun, pointing to the co-pilot's seat. "This might be rough." He activated the ship's systems according to Mirai's instructions. The hangar's main doors were still closed, but that was part of the plan. "Hangar Bay 12. This is station control." A voice crackled over the comm system. "Power failure detected. Do not attempt launch." "Repeat, do not attempt launch." Tai-Ho ignored the warning and powered up the weapons system, a small laser cannon, meant for clearing space debris. He aimed at the hangar doors and fired. The laser cut through the center of the doors, creating a hole just large enough for the ship to pass through. Alarms blared even louder. "Hold on." Tai-Ho pushed the throttle forward. The ship lurched, then shot toward the opening. Metal screeched against metal as they squeezed through the hole, but then they were out. floating in the darkness of space with the massive station behind them. Hyun gasped, staring out the viewport at the stars. Freedom, she whispered, but their escape was far from complete. Already, small security vessels were launching from other parts of the station. We need to jump to light speed, Taiho said, frantically working the navigation system. But first we have to clear the station's gravity well. Hyun leaned forward, studying the control panel. To Taiho's surprise, she reached out and adjusted several settings with practiced ease. "You know how to fly?" he asked, amazed. "My people were natural pilots," she said. "Before the wars, we flew the greatest ships in the galaxy." Her fingers danced across the controls. "Head for that moon. We can use its gravity to slingshot us out of the system faster." Taiho followed her directions, impressed by her knowledge. As they accelerated away from the station, he glanced at her. Despite her injuries and exhaustion, there was a fierce determination in her eyes. "Thank you," she said, meeting his gaze. "For risking everything for me." Taiho smiled. "We're not safe yet, but we will be." Behind them, the security ships grew smaller as their stolen vessel raced toward the distant moon and the promise of freedom beyond. The ship shuddered as it raced away from Orbital Station 7. 3 security vessels followed close behind, their warning lights flashing in the darkness of space. "Unidentified vessel. This is station security." A stern voice came through the communication system. "Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. This is your final warning." Taiho ignored the message and focused on flying. The ship was faster than it looked, but the security vessels were gaining on them. "They're charging weapons," Hyun said, watching the scanner. Her scaled fingers moved quickly over the control panel, adjusting the ship's shields. "We need more speed." "I'm trying," Taiho replied, pushing the engines harder. The old ship groaned in protest. "We just need to reach that moon. Then we can make the jump to light speed." A bright flash lit up the cockpit as a warning shot passed close to their ship. "The next one wouldn't miss. Can you fly?" Taiho asked suddenly, looking at Hyun. She nodded. "Yes, but take the controls," he said, already getting up from the pilot's seat. "I have an idea." Hyun slid into his place, her wings folding tightly against her back to fit in the seat. Her hands gripped the controls with surprising confidence. Taiho ran to the back of the ship, to the small cargo area where he had noticed something useful earlier, an old mining probe launcher. It wasn't a weapon, but it might work as one. The ship rocked as a security blast grazed their shields. Hyun's voice came through the internal comm. "Whatever you're planning, do it quickly." Taiho opened a panel in the floor and pulled out 3 mining probe's metal spheres, about the size of his fist. They were designed to be launched into asteroids to test for valuable minerals. But right now, they would serve a different purpose. He loaded the probes into the launcher and opened the small rear viewport. Through it, he could see the 3 security ships following them, getting closer by the second. "Hyun, when I say now, cut all power for 3 seconds. Then give the engines everything they have," Taiho said into the comm. "That's dangerous." She replied, "We could lose all systems. Trust me," Taiho said. Now, the ship went dark as Hyun cut the power. The sudden loss of engine signature confused the security vessel's tracking systems. In that moment, Taiho fired the mining probes. The 3 metal spheres shot out into space, directly into the path of the pursuing ships. Then Hyun restored power, and their ship surged forward with renewed speed. Behind them, the security vessels had to swerve wildly to avoid the probes. One ship managed to dodge, but the other 2 collided with each other in the confusion. They weren't destroyed, but they fell back, no longer in pursuit. "It worked," Taiho shouted as he returned to the cockpit. "We've lost 2 of them." Hyun's amber eyes were wide with surprise. "Clever trick, but we still have one problem." She pointed to the scanner, where the 3rd security ship was still following them, now joined by a larger vessel. "What is that?" Taiho asked, looking at the new ship on the scanner. "Patrol cruiser," Hyun said grimly. "Heavily armed. We can't outrun it for long." The moon was getting closer, its gray surface filling the viewport. If they could just reach it, they could use its gravity to slingshot them toward the jump point Mireille had programmed into the navigation system. "We're almost there," Tai-ho said. Just a little longer. The ship shook violently as the patrol cruiser fired its main weapons. Their shields flickered, warning lights flashing across the control panel. Shields at 30%. Ha-Yun reported. One more hit like that, and we're done. Tai-ho checked the distance to the moon. We need to get closer to its surface. The patrol cruiser is too big to follow us there. Ha-Yun nodded and adjusted their course, taking the ship into a steep dive toward the moon. The security vessel stayed with them, but the patrol cruiser held back, unwilling to risk such a dangerous maneuver. They skimmed over the moon's cratered surface, so close that dust kicked up in their wake. The security ship was still behind them, firing occasional shots that Ha-Yun skillfully evaded. There's a canyon ahead, she said, pointing to a deep gash in the moon's surface. We can lose them there. The ship banked sharply and plunged into the canyon. Jagged rock walls rose on either side as they flew deeper into the narrow space. The security vessel followed, but it was larger and less maneuverable. Ha-Yun's flying was incredible. She guided the ship through twists and turns with perfect precision, as if she had flown this route 100 times before. Tai-ho watched in amazement as her scaled hands danced across the controls, making tiny adjustments that kept them from crashing into the walls. How are you doing this? He asked. Ha-Yun's lips curved into a small smile. My people were born to fly. It's in our blood. She pulled the ship into a tight turn around a massive boulder. The ship feels like an extension of my wings. Behind them, the security vessel wasn't faring as well. It scraped against the canyon wall, sending sparks flying. Its engines sputtered as it tried to keep up. We're losing them, Tai-ho said, watching the scanner. Just a little further. The canyon widened ahead, opening back to the moon's surface. Beyond that was open space and their chance to jump to light speed. Get ready for the slingshot, Ha-Yun said. I'll need full power to the engines when we exit the canyon. Tai-ho adjusted the power settings, diverting everything they could spare to the engines. The ship's lights dimmed as systems throughout the vessel powered down to their minimum levels. They burst out of the canyon at tremendous speed. Ha-Yun pulled the ship up sharply, using the moon's gravity to accelerate them even faster. The security vessel emerged from the canyon moments later, but it was too damaged to maintain pursuit. The patrol cruiser appeared again on their scanner, moving to intercept them from above the moon. But it was too late. Jump point reached, Ha-Yun announced, preparing for light speed. The stars stretched into lines of light around them as the ship jumped to light speed. The patrol cruiser and Orbital Station 7 vanished behind them, replaced by the swirling tunnel of hyperspace. They had escaped. Tai-ho let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. That was incredible flying. Ha-Yun leaned back in the pilot's seat, her wings relaxing slightly. For the first time, Tai-ho saw her truly smile. It transformed her face, making her look younger and less haunted. Thank you, she said softly. For everything. Tai-ho smiled back. We're not safe yet. We need to meet my friend at the rendezvous point, then find somewhere to hide. Ha-Yun nodded, her expression growing serious again. They won't stop looking for us, especially not the collector Daesung mentioned. Who is this collector? Tai-ho asked. Why is he so interested in you? Ha-Yun's amber eyes darkened. His name is Jin Woo. He collects rare species, the rarer, the better. And there's nothing rarer than the last Ryong in the galaxy. Are you really the last? Tai-ho asked gently. Ha-Yun looked out at the streaking stars of hyperspace. I don't know. I hope not. But I haven't seen another of my kind in many years. The ship continued through hyperspace, carrying them toward an uncertain future. But for now, they were free, and that was enough. The ship dropped out of light speed with a gentle shudder. Ahead of them floated Junction Point Alpha, a scattered field of asteroids that served as a hiding place for those who wanted to avoid official attention. Some of the larger rocks had been hollowed out to create small trading posts and repair stations. We made it, Tai-ho said, checking the navigation system. Mireille should be waiting for us at the main asteroid. Ha-Yun studied the asteroid field through the viewport. Her wounds had been cleaned and bandaged during their journey, but she still moved carefully, her body sore from the chains and mistreatment. Your friend, she said quietly. Can we trust her? With our lives, Tai-ho replied without hesitation. She risked everything to help us escape. He guided the ship toward the largest asteroid in the field. Its surface was dotted with small lights marking landing pads and entrances to the interior spaces. As they approached, a familiar ship came into view. Mirei's small transport vessel. "That's her," Tai-Ho said, pointing. He opened a communication channel. "Mirei, this is Tai-Ho. We've arrived." There was a moment of static. Then Mirei's voice came through. "About time. I was starting to think you'd crashed into something. Follow my beacon to landing pad 7. Tai-Ho landed their ship next to Mirei's. The asteroid had a thin artificial atmosphere, enough to breathe but not comfortable for long periods. They would need to get inside quickly. "Ready?" he asked Hayun. She nodded, pulling a cloak around her shoulders to hide her wings. "Ready." They exited the ship together. Mirei was waiting for them at the entrance to the asteroid's interior. Her eyes widened when she saw Hayun, but she quickly composed herself. "So it's true," she said. "A real Ryong." "This is Hayun," Tai-Ho said. "Hayun, this is my friend Mirei." Hayun bowed her head slightly. "Thank you for helping us." Mirei returned the gesture. "Let's get inside. It's not safe out here." They followed her through a series of tunnels carved into the asteroid. The walls were rough stone, but the floors were smooth metal. People of various species passed them, most not giving them a second glance. Junction Point Alpha was a place where asking questions was discouraged. Mirei led them to a small room with basic furniture, a table, chairs, and narrow beds. "It's not much, but it's secure," she said, closing the door behind them. "No one will bother you here." "What's happening at the station?" Tai-Ho asked. "Are they looking for us?" Mirei sat down at the table. "Oh yes. There's a bounty on both of you now. 10,000 credits for the ship, 50,000 for the stolen property." "Meaning you, Hayun." Hayun's face darkened. "I am not property." "Of course not," Mirei agreed quickly. "That's just how they're describing you in the bounty notice." She turned to Tai-Ho. "The good news is they don't know who you are yet. Daesung only knew your first name, and I made sure the payment couldn't be traced back to you." "What about the collector?" Tai-Ho asked. "Jin Woo." Mirei's expression grew serious. "That's the bad news. He's furious. Added another 50,000 to the bounty from his own pocket. He's hired private hunters to find you." Hayun wrapped her arms around herself, her wings shifting nervously under the cloak. "He won't stop looking. Not ever. Then we'll keep running," Tai-Ho said firmly. Mirei shook her head. "You can't run forever. Eventually, they'll catch up to you." She pulled out a small data chip and placed it on the table. "That's why I brought this." "What is it?" Tai-Ho asked. "Coordinates," Mirei said. "To a place called Haven. It's a hidden colony in uncharted space, beyond the reach of the Galactic Authority. People go there to disappear." Hayun leaned forward. "How do you know about this place?" Mirei smiled slightly. "I have my secrets too. Let's just say I've helped others find their way there before." Tai-Ho picked up the data chip. "Is it safe?" "Safer than anywhere else you could go," Mirei replied. And she hesitated, then looked at Hayun. "There are rumors that some Ryong escaped there during the wars. It's possible you're not the last of your kind after all." Hayun's amber eyes widened. "My people, alive." Her voice trembled with hope and disbelief. "It's just a rumor," Mirei cautioned. "But Haven is known as a sanctuary for endangered species. If any Ryong survived, that's where they would go." Tai-Ho looked at Hayun. Her face showed a mixture of hope and fear. Hope that she might find her people. Fear that it might not be true. "We'll go," he decided. "How far is it?" "About 2 weeks' journey," Mirei said. "Through some dangerous territory. You'll need supplies." She pushed a credit chip across the table. "This should cover what you need." Tai-Ho shook his head. "You've done enough already." "I can't take your money too," Mirei smiled. "It's not mine. I sold some information about Daesung's illegal activities to a rival dealer. Consider it justice." They spent the next few hours planning their journey to Haven. Mirei knew which routes to avoid and which trading posts they could safely visit for supplies. Hayun studied the star charts, her knowledge of space navigation proving invaluable once again. As they worked, Tai-Ho noticed Hayun becoming more confident, more alive. The frightened prisoner he had found chained to a wall was transforming into a strong, intelligent being with each passing hour. You should get some rest, Mireille said finally. I need to return to my ship before my absence is noticed. My captain thinks I'm making repairs. She hugged Tai-Ho tightly. Be careful out there. I will, he promised. Thank you for everything. Mireille turned to Ha-Yun. It was an honor to meet you. I hope you find what you're looking for at Haven. After Mireille left, Tai-Ho and Ha-Yun prepared for sleep. The journey ahead would be long and dangerous. Do you really think there could be more Ryong at Haven? Tai-Ho asked as he sat on one of the beds. Ha-Yun looked up at the rough stone ceiling. I don't know. I was very young when the wars ended. I remember fire and screaming, and then being alone for a long time. She closed her eyes. But I want to believe. Then we'll find out together, Tai-Ho said. Ha-Yun opened her eyes and looked at him. Why are you doing all this for me? You could have bought your ship and gone your own way. Instead, you're a wanted man with a dangerous journey ahead. Tai-Ho thought about it for a moment. When I saw you in chains, I knew I couldn't walk away. Some things are more important than plans or safety. He smiled. Besides, I still got my ship. It just came with an unexpected co-pilot. Ha-Yun laughed softly the first time Tai-Ho had heard such a sound from her. It was like distant music. Tomorrow we start our journey to Haven, she said. Whether my people are there or not, it will be a new beginning. A new beginning, Tai-Ho agreed. For both of us, outside their small room, the asteroid field drifted silently in the darkness of space. Somewhere beyond the charted systems, Haven waited a promise of safety, freedom, and perhaps even family for a dragon woman who had lost everything. And beside her, a human who had come looking for a ship but found something far more valuable, a purpose. Their journey was just beginning.